Coding Dojo is a programming school that turns beginners into developers in only 14 weeks. If you're serious about landing a career in tech, but lack the formal education or background, Coding Dojo will get you there in no time. With over 3,000 graduates to date, over 90% of their grads land jobs within 3 months of graduating, often making over $70K per year at tech firms of all sizes, from companies like Google to local startups. To learn more, visit codingdojo.com or click the link in the description below.
Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So I got a question from the Facebook group, which I don't mention that often on this channel, but the only way to get into it right now is through Patreon, and you can ask questions and talk to people who are also members there. There'll eventually be some other way to get in there, but right now that's the only way to get in there. So if you're interested, you can still sign up there. But yeah, let's get into it. So sometimes I'm in there talking to people on the Facebook group, and there's a lot of good people that are just really focused on improving themselves, improving their careers, and they're usually helping each other out, answering questions and whatnot. So there's sort of a high bar to enter at this point, because I don't want it to just be a place where there's a lot of people that don't really care that are in there. So anyway, let me answer this question here that I saw in the group, because I thought it was a good question for a video. This question's I won't name the names just in case, because it's in the Facebook group, but I've been listening to John for a while, and I have started to try and predict his answers to various questions, but I'm not sure which way he would go in the following situation. Okay. So it says, stuff has gone wrong at work, no fault of mine, and a client is threatening to cancel contracts. I was asked if I can help fix the problem. I said yes and worked my Saturday. Others in the team work through day and night to fix the problem. My question is, should you volunteer to help out your employer when things go wrong? On the plus side, helping out is good if it gets you a thank and notice. However, on the other side, lack of sleep is not good for your health. Less time for family side projects. And you may not, you know what, there's a screenshot there, so. But anyway, that's the gist of it. I think that's enough of the question. But so the question is whether or not, it makes sense. And I've done some videos on only working your 40 hours or only working what you're paid for. You can check out the video here if we can find it. I can't remember the name of the video, but I've talked about this a lot, about working too much and paying yourself first and all this idea. And I've talked definitely in my book, in the Complete Software Developer's Career Guide. You should get a copy if you don't have a copy already. I talk about, also in soft skills, but about this idea that you should really be working, you shouldn't be building someone else's empire. You should be spending your time, do your 40 at work, and then spend the rest of the time improving yourself, building your own side business, like things that are going to build up your empire. Do the work for your employer, do the best job that you can. You're being paid to do a job, be the best worker that they have, but work the hours that you agree to. But now, what about in this specific situation? What about when, is it okay to help out, right? So I think some of you, the reason why I want to do this video is because some of you might have interpreted what I've been saying as, oh no, never ever work more than 40 hours, always just say no. And that's not exactly true. So I'll say a couple things here. So first of all, it's perfectly okay to help someone out, even your company, when you want to. So when you want to is the key words here, right? So it's perfectly acceptable, right? We talk about boundaries. I have a lot of videos on boundaries and don't let people put obligations and expectations on you, right? And I've talked about, about beggars and giving handouts to people and whatnot. And I tend to take a harsh stance on that. But there's a difference between being obligated to do something and doing something because you genuinely want to help. So in the case of your work, right? Suppose something went wrong, a client is talking about canceling contracts, and your boss says, oh, we need some help to get this, otherwise we could lose these contracts, There's nothing wrong with you saying, oh, you know what, I'll come in Saturday, I'll try, let's get this done, let's get this working, let's do this, okay? The problem is when when a couple things. First of all, when you don't want to do this. Well, I'm not going to say when you don't want to, because there's a second case, which is what I would call duty. So let's go ahead and get into that. So the other place where I think it's perfectly fine is when you have some kind of a duty, right? So just because you're hired to work 40 hours doesn't mean that you're, especially as a salaried employee, that there's not going to be some moments where it's sort of your duty, right, as your job, to make sure that the product ships, or to go in and do the extra work that needs to be done in order to make the client happy, especially on a deadline, right? Well, companies can't control, like business can't control deadlines and expectations of clients and whatnot, right? I mean, there's going to be situations that are emergency situations. Now, again, here's where I'll draw the line, the distinction here, right? So and it might be your duty, you might not want to do it, right? But that's fine, because you have to really, look and examine in yourself and say, should I be doing this, right? Is this something that I should be doing, that it's reasonably expected of me to do? Now, here's where it becomes a problem. Remember, I said that it's if you want to do it or if it's your duty. But I'll tell you when both of those things fail, which is when there's emergencies all the time. Okay, and so, I've come in and I've worked overtime. I remember at a couple of my jobs, I remember going in and working all night for 2 nights and getting something done so that we could get this thing done. But you know what? I was excited to work on the project because they didn't think it could be done, that we didn't have enough time, and I was like, yeah, we could do this, and it was fun. And I've come in before for a release where, this was a huge release of a huge system, that multi-million-dollar system that we'd been building for a long time, and I stayed all night and I made sure everything went smooth and it was great, right? But both of those times, I sort of wanted to. Maybe the second time I didn't want to, but I definitely felt it was my duty because I had built this system. I had been one of the leads, the mentors on the project, like really bringing it together, and I wanted to see it through to completion. That was my duty. So, but it didn't happen all the time, okay? And then that's the thing. It's like if you're at a company and it's happening all the time, first of all, you're not going to want to if it's happening all the time, okay? Unless it is something that you want to do, but it's probably not a wise way to spend your time. Is there's a lot of more entertaining things you could do that could benefit you as well. And maybe if you love coding, then code something for yourself. But anyway, if it's happening all the time and there's always emergencies, that's a problem, okay? And that's where you got to draw the line. And you got to draw the line in general, right? I mean, if it's not an emergency at all and your boss is like, oh, we need some people to come in on Saturday, and you're like, no, you could pay me to come in on Saturday. And I think there's still, in my mind, there's still a debate of whether or not they should pay you extra for that. Now, in the case of a client, they're going to lose a client and the company could go under, you're kind of a dick if you're like, well, I could come in and save you guys, but you got to pay me another whatever to do it. That's not very cool either. So it's a very blurry line. Obviously, you have to use your own judgment, but I would say that don't do things out of obligation and don't be taken advantage of. And the rule of thumb is generally that emergencies shouldn't be happening all the time, otherwise they're not emergencies. And you need to make your primary focus that you're not it's not going to get you ahead in the corporate world, or it may slightly, but it's not going to get you ahead where you think it will by working all these extra hours and doing all this overtime and hoping to get noticed. It's better to be a really good performer and to build your own shit on the side, to build yourself, to use your time wisely that you have. Okay, that's going to be a better choice in general. So again, I have to say that because some of you have thought I've taken a harsh stance on this. I'm not saying never work overtime. I'm not saying never come in on the weekends. Right? It's fine when the situation warrants. When you want to, when it's your duty, okay, and it's not an emergency all the time. And then the same thing goes again for helping friends, for giving handouts to beggars or whatever. It's like if you want to and you're not feeling obligated, right? Then sure, it's your choice, it's your will. But a lot of people that say that they want to do something, they don't want to. What is actually motivating them is obligation, is fear of embarrassment, fear of what other people will think. And if your actions in your work, in wherever you're at in your life, are motivated by your fear of what other people think, not only will it come through and you will appear weak, but you will be living someone else's life. So you have to be strong enough to put your foot down, to be able to accept the consequences, and to make your own call here. On situations like this, you make the call, but you make sure that you're making it from a place of what you think is right, what ascribes to your principles, what you would ascribe to your principles, and it's not coming from obligation and from a fear. And if you do that, you'll make the right call. All right, so that's all I got about that. If you have a question for me, by the way, I haven't mentioned this in a while, you can always email me at john@simpleprogrammer.com, and it goes onto my Trello. I'll send you a little thing where you can fill out a thing that goes on my Trello board, and maybe I'll do your question. All right, if you like this video, make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and click the bell to make sure you don't miss any videos. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.